All right, let's focus in on employment and the politics of this here. Gen Z is struggling economically. Youth unemployment is at 10.5%, double the national average, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. About 1 in 3 young adults still live at home. A new study shows 70% of Gen Z loses sleep over financial stress. The political figures that are resonating with parts of Gen Z speak directly to these economic struggles. Charlie Kirk was one of them. Here he was back in 2012 on his first Fox News appearance.
When we graduate from high school this coming June, we're handed a diploma. That's also an invoice for hundreds of thousands of dollars that my generation is going to have to pay off through interest, high taxes, and a stagnant economy. We here at SOS Liberty believe that if we do not change the conversation back to us, the kids that are going to have to inherit this debt, that our economy will be stagnant for years to come. I'm having trouble finding a summer job, as is Mike, in a lot of different regards. A lot of kids are feeling the effects of what we like to call, with the Washington economy, with a lot of debt, plummeting small business, with higher regulation and high taxes. We're just trying to reinstitute the founding principles, free market, fiscal responsibility. SOS Liberty is a nonpartisan. We don't consider this a Republican versus Democrat issue, but rather a generational one.
So that went on to become Turning Point USA. Ed and Kyler are still with us. So you have Charlie Kirk saying something that I think could still be relevant today. It's hard to find a job when you get out of college, and people, his generation is finding that scary and difficult. Now you have Zohran Mamdani, who is, I think, the most apt figure to talk about on the left, because he's coming out and he has captured the voting base of New York City. Looks like he's going to be a shoo-in to win the mayor's race here next month, or in about a month and a half, because he's talking about affordability. I mean, his main message is it's too expensive to live here. It's too expensive to find housing here. It's too expensive to eat here. Your life should be better and it should be more affordable. Is that what the next generation of political leaders needs to do? Talk directly to people who say that they can't afford their lives. Kyla.
Yeah, that's like, as I said at the beginning, that's why young people voted for Trump, is because they thought he would fix the economic problems that they're facing. And then I think Mamdani is answering those same sorts of questions for people, where he is centering affordability, financial hardship, the housing crisis, all of these things that people are trying to deal with as they climb up a career ladder that really, no longer exists because of technological things like AI. And so I think more and more so, political leaders have to pay attention to what young people are saying to them. There has to be some sort of regulation around technology. Should it be replacing all the entry-level jobs, or at least trying to? Probably not, right? We have to figure out how to build more housing, and we really do have to address these core affordability problems, or the problems are going to continue to be an issue, and it's going to continue to create disillusionment in young people, and it's just going to be a never-ending cycle like we're seeing now.
How do you talk about it, Ed? How do you resonate? I mean, all politicians talk about affordability. How do you resonate by talking about affordability?
I think you talk like Charlie Kirk just talked. I mean, that was a pretty great message that we just saw from Charlie Kirk there. I think you need to recognize what the issues are. I think you need to have a strong command of what the issues are. As you say, a third of us living with our parents, the fact that half of our parents are still supporting us financially, the fact that housing prices are at record highs, the fact that college costs are 42% of our income compared to 13% for our grandparents, et cetera, et cetera. By the way, you talk about it the way Kyla talks about it. I mean, this is a big reason why Kyla's message is resonating so much with young people. It's simply a recognition of the struggles. Now, the trouble is, I mean, you give credit to Charlie Kirk for recognizing the problem. You don't give him credit for the solution that he proposed. And the solution was to elect someone who has really shown more disregard for the economic well-being of young people than any president in American history. I mean, he talked about fiscal responsibility in that video, but this is the president who decided to explode the debt by $4 trillion, the debt which young people are going to have to pay for. And this is the guy who reignited the cost of living crisis with the largest set of tariffs in American history. This is the guy who's overseen the most unaffordable housing market in American history. This is the guy who made $5 billion shilling crypto, Trump coin, Melania coin. Meanwhile, 600,000 people lost around $4 billion. on these coins. So, you got to recognize the problems. And I think Charlie Kirk did a good job of that. But then it's a question of, okay, how do we build solutions? How do we actually fix these problems? And in my view, no one has really done more damage to young people and their economic prospects than the current president. And I think for young people, we need to sort of wake up to this reality and ask ourselves, what do we want to do about it?
So, Kyla, is the answer to that someone like Mamdani, or is it a moderate? Is it someone more like an old school traditional Democrat, or even an old school traditional Republican?
I think I think this issue kind of supersedes party lines, right? Like, there has to be some sort of solution put forward where we're addressing these problems in a way that makes people feel like they don't have to fall prey to things like zero-sum thinking, which has been on the rise, that helps reestablish upward mobility. And so I think someone like Mamdani is proposing some policies that address the affordability crisis, but really it comes down to simple policies like zoning reform to help build more housing, quality immigration reform as well. Like, there are different things that we can do that I think the two political parties can hopefully unite on, and we don't have to make it, single side.
Oh, God, I wish I could keep talking about zoning, because I feel like there's so much building, but a lot of these buildings are empty. So it's got to be another conversation there as well. Kyla Scanlon, Ed Elson, guys, thank you so much. I had 2 blocks with you, and yet I still would like more. Appreciate it.